Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ryan. Happy Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic in regards to website and the process on why is my website not performing as much as it should or could, and we need it to. There's many reasons. I'm going to touch on 5 today. And these aren't the 5 biggest reasons. I think that actually one that we're not talking about today is speed of the server and the site. But again, we'll save that for a different day because that's just a lot more complicated, and there's a lot of things that are that can be outside of your control. But one of the biggest ones is not mobile friendly, and that's something that I think it was, I want to say Mobilegeddon, I think they called it, Google called it. It was back in 2000, I want to say 17. Really, Google cracked down on all sites that aren't mobile friendly. And they really changed everything to be mobile first. And that's still relevant today. I think that with the new technologies and new in a sense, not technologies, but new processes in which to make your content mobile focused, it really isn't an excuse anymore. So whenever we see a site that's like not mobile friendly and there's no media queries and no really things happening that are in a sense displaying the content for users that are on a mobile device, definitely something that needs to be addressed. And there's no more excuses anymore. So I'd say that if your site hasn't been redesigned in the last 5 years, definitely check or give us a shout and we'll check it for you. But no more excuses. Wrong keywords. Sometimes whoops! I just kicked the camera. Sometimes we see the focus being on the wrong keywords for your industry. So if you're, I don't know, a widgets company and you're not focused on keywords that are relevant to people that might be a good target audience for you, that are searching for your widgets, then you're off. So sometimes with a rebrand, this can also come into play where an organization or company might say, hey, we're rebranding, but we want to also get rid of all this content on our site. If that content is part of a cash flow revenue stream, I would say be very cautious and careful. I'd also say make sure that your strategy plan is in place to circumvent that if you're going to be, in a sense, massively switching directions in which words and how you're targeting your keywords in your search topics. So I definitely say that be very careful, especially around the word. When I hear rebrand, I think about, okay, how is that going to influence the site, and are you checking all of the keywords to make sure that, hey, we still need to rank for this one, even though we're rebranding. Neglecting SEO in general. So this is similar to keywords. I mean, keywords technically fall under search engine optimization, but this is more on the raw neglect. There's a lot of really simple things you can do. Obviously, hook it into Google My Business. I also recommend Bing Places. So there's things that you can do to have your site make sure it's connected and clicking on all cylinders from the standpoint of local search. Now, it's not just relevant to local search. If you're a restaurant, clearly Google My Business, Bing Places, it's do or die. You have to have a high rating. You also want to bring in Yelp and other, forum-based social networking sites. But when it comes to raw neglect of SEO, saying, it's just up there as a landing page, it's just up there to, in a sense, point from my business cards. If people go search, it's there. That's good, but really that's the only way. It's going to be limited then to pretty much just word of mouth. So it's almost like it's not really, why do you have it? So those are the questions that I would say, always consider when you're thinking about your SEO strategy holistically. Broken website. I'd say broken, and also there's some security vulnerabilities and issues happening. These are really issues that shouldn't happen anymore, but they do. I would always recommend you have a managed site. I'm not saying a site that is managed via a freemium or somewhat paid-based site, but make sure that there is a strategy in place and an actual tactics to check and clean up and manage your plugins and manage your modules and make sure that's happening. It's usually not just through the website that your site is hacked. It's usually through a vulnerability in a plugin module or some type of code snippet that infiltration occurs. So when that happens, typically there can be fun that happens, fun in air quotes, but there can also be, in a sense, downtime and other issues that come into play. the biggest one that I see is not necessarily that, but it's div bloat and other programming issues with your site where there's just div explosions that just, if you're using a page builder, you need to be very careful on that. We do recommend Oxygen as a page builder. It is phenomenal. But there's others out there. Again, I would say be very careful with themes, with certain, platforms that have div bloat. And in a sense, yes, we use a great platform, but there's divs for days. So I would always recommend be very wary when it comes to what type of, if you're using a theme, be careful on what you're using. Make sure you're managing your plugins and your modules and have a check and balance in place. It might even just be a calendar reminder weekly. Now, if you're a small business owner, I would recommend don't do that. You need to focus on growing the business. But if you're a larger organization, you can kind of somewhat delegate this to maybe your IT group or your team that handles the other IT functions. When it comes to that, I would definitely make sure you have a security plan in place as well. So, poor user experience. This is a little different. This is somewhat relevant to mobile friendly, but there's another thing that comes into place when it comes into play when it comes to accessibility. Is your site is there really bad contrast when it comes to the buttons? Are you having red buttons with blue text over top? Please don't. Right now we have a little fun survey going in the office on the worst fonts of all time. That's not necessarily a user experience issue. However, if you are a more couture or higher design agency, then you might not want to use Comic Sans. You might not want to use Papyrus. What are the other ones that are bad guys that we have out there? Joker Man, or what else? Curls. So think common sense when it comes to typography in your audience. Now, I'm not even going to say there's a time and a place for that. Fonts and here's the reason those fonts become bad. Are they bad fonts? Yeah, but it's almost that they've been used by everyone who doesn't understand design, and that's the problem, that people just abuse a font and use it for everything. That's when it's all of a sudden you see it everywhere, and it's almost like, ugh, and the message becomes blurred. That's when a font really starts to corrupt and, in a sense, lose value. So make sure that's why designers go to school. That's why they have training. That's why they have experience on trends and what really reads well and communicates well. So make sure that you always kind of think about the user experience, not just when it comes to fonts, but fonts is the one that I think can kind of be the most obvious one. All right, we are Energy Hill. We are located north of Tampa Bay area. We love where we live in the great sunshine state of Florida, in Lando Lakes. We focus on three things: brand, design, and marketing. Really, those are the three kind of niches that we stand. It's not really necessarily a specific industry, but those are the services that we kind of focus on. All right, thank you. If you have any questions, I put my number up there, my direct line as well as my mobile. Please feel free to reach out and have a great rest of your day and a good week.